Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be crocheting one of these super cute checkered coasters. Now, I find this to be a super easy project. It takes me like less than an hour to make one, and I've probably made over 20 coasters, no lie. They're awesome to give as little gifts to friends, and I love making them in different colors. I've done a lot of the pastel colored ones, which are super cute, but recently I've been making some brown and green. I think they're super versatile to any space though, and just add such a nice touch. So if you enjoyed this project, make sure to like and subscribe, but without any further ado, let's get started. So first let's take a look at the materials that we're gonna need. So obviously if you're doing the checkered pattern like I am, you're going to need two different colors. I personally always do white with another color. For the tutorial today, we're going to be using blue, but feel free to use any two colors that you like. So to make these coasters, I used a 4mm crochet hook. If you don't have exactly that, you can use something similar, a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle. And before we get into crocheting, I kind of want to point out a few things. So first of all, I want you to notice that there are 4 squares wide and 4 squares tall for this coaster. And then after we do all of the squares, I like to do a little trim just by crocheting around the outside, in this case with blue. So whichever color that you want to have the trim on the outside, that's the color that you're going to start with. So let's get started with making a slip knot. One way to do this is to wrap your yarn 2 times around your finger, and then I like to hold the little end down with my thumb, and then we're going to take the first loop on the left and pull it over top of the right one, and then we'll take the new left loop and pull that over top of this one and all the way around our finger, and then pull it tight to make a slip knot. So now we're going to grab our crochet hook and put it through this loop and then tighten the loop onto our crochet hook so we can start crocheting. So we are going to chain 17, and if you've never chained before, you're going to use your hook to grab your working yarn and pull it through the loop that's on your hook. So I'll show you a few times here how to do that. And each one of these is considered a chain. So you're going to go ahead and chain 17, like I said. Awesome, and once you get to the end, you can always count to double check and make sure that you have exactly 17. So now we're going to be working with half double crochets in this project. So starting at the second chain from your hook, you're going to skip the one right next to your hook and go into the second one. And we're going to do a half double crochet. Before we even put our hook into the second chain, we're going to wrap the working yarn around our hook one time, then stick our hook through, then we'll use that working yarn to pull a loop through, and you should have 3 loops on your hook at this point. Finally, to finish off the stitch, we'll grab one more loop and pull it through all 3 of those loops. And we'll be left with just one loop on our hook. So let me show you that again. We're going to wrap our hook, then stick it through the next stitch, pull a yarn through, and we should have 3 loops on our hook, then pull one more loop through all 3 of those. And that is a half double crochet. So we're going to do 4 half double crochets in total with the blue yarn first. So here's our third half double crochet. And for our fourth half double crochet, we are going to do a color change at the end of this stitch. So once you get to the point where you have 3 loops on your hook, you're going to put your work down for a second and grab your second color of yarn. So for me that's white, and we're going to make another slip knot. So I'll show you again how I wrap it around my finger twice, pull the left loop over top of the right one, and then pull the new left loop all the way over top of my finger and pull it tight. So now we're going to grab our hook again and put this white loop straight on our hook and tighten it. Then you're going to pull that white yarn all the way through those 3 blue loops to finish off the 4th half double crochet that we did in blue. We have effectively changed colors now. There's plenty of other ways that you can change colors. I find this to be the most seamless way, but let me show you how to do that again. First, we're just going to do 4 half double crochets with our white yarn though. So here's our first half double crochet. And you might notice that I'm kind of crocheting over top of these other stray yarns that we have. I would also definitely recommend trying to do this so that you don't have a bunch of hanging yarn in the back from all the color changes, because realistically in this project we're going to change colors every 4 stitches. So if you can learn to crochet over top of the yarn, it'll make this process a lot more seamless, and the back of your work will look a lot nicer too. You'll also notice I have this little white tail that I was crocheting over top of, and the reason I did that is so that I don't have to sew it in later. So if you didn't do that, that's okay. If you did, congrats, you can just cut it straight off. If not, you'll just come in later with a sewing needle and sew in that end. So once we get to the 4th white half double crochet, before we finish off the stitch, at the point where we have 3 loops on our hook, we're going to pause. And we're actually going to find our blue yarn, which should be right here since we were crocheting right over top of it. And we'll pick that up, pull a loop of the blue yarn through our white stitch to finish it off. And now we've changed colors to blue. So next, of course, we're going to do 4 half double crochet, but with blue again. And you'll want to continue crocheting on top of the white yarn so that we can have it at the end of this next set of 4 stitches and change color again. So just bear with me as I finish up my 4 half double crochet with blue. And on the 4th one, before we finish the stitch off, we're going to switch yarns, grab the white one, and pull a loop of that white yarn through our blue stitch. And now we're on to white. Now you should have 4 more half double crochets remaining with white. So we'll just go to the end of the first round with those half double crochets. You actually don't have to worry about crocheting over top of the blue yarn for this last set of 4, because for the second row we're going to still be working in white. So I like to leave the blue yarn just hanging there. But if you do continue crocheting over top of it, that's totally okay. The first round is always so much harder than the rest, so bear with me. I promise the next row will be a lot easier. So since we're at the end of the row, we are going to chain 1 to get started with the second row, and then flip our work. So we're simply going to do 4 more half double crochets with the white yarn to get started. And as you could probably guess, we're going to do 4 half double crochets in white, then we'll do 4 in blue, then we'll do 4 in white, and 4 in blue. So basically it's going to match with row 1. And this row is already so much easier to work into. But on that 4th half double crochet, before we finish it off, we're going to pick up the blue yarn right here. And this is kind of why I left it hanging in row 1, because I knew I wouldn't need it until I got back to blue. So now that we've changed colors, we can do 4 more half double crochet in blue. Now I have one piece of advice that, honestly, if you're a beginner, totally ignore this, because I feel like this is just going to be more confusing for you right now. But if you are maybe an intermediate crocheter and you're concerned with like perfecting your color change techniques, I would recommend trying to keep track of the quote-unquote front of your coaster and the quote-unquote back of your coaster. So if there's ever a situation where you have to leave your yarn hanging out, I would put it to the back. And then also, while you're crocheting over top of that yarn that you're not currently using, the one that's like the opposite color, I would try to pull the yarn more towards the back even while you're crocheting, so that if you did happen to see the yarn through your stitches, it would always be on the back. And I found that that's helped me to have really even and seamless color changes. So as we finish up with our 4 half double crochet in blue, on our 4th stitch, of course, we're going to wait to finish off that stitch, and then we can switch to our white yarn, pull that through our 4th stitch to finish it off, and change colors. And I might start sounding like a broken record, but I just want to make sure everyone has this color change technique down. Now, obviously, we are going to do 4 half double crochet in white. And on the 4th stitch, we will change to blue. And this is kind of another instance where I would just leave this white yarn hanging here. You don't totally have to crochet over top of it, because for round 3, we are going to start with blue again. So for the end of round 2, just do 4 half double crochets with blue. And once you get to the end of the round, we should have something looking like this. And if you look at my example here, we are just going to need 1 more row with this same color pattern to finish off the first row of checkered squares. So let's do a chain 1 to start round 3. And for round 3, we are going to do 4 half double crochets with blue, 4 with white, then 4 with blue, then 4 with white. In other words, it should match with rows 1 and 2 perfectly. So once we get to the 4th half double crochet in blue, we'll pick up our white yarn, switch to white, and do 4 more half double crochets with white. So I'm going to speed through this row a little bit, because I think you're probably getting the hang of this. After our 4 in white, we'll change colors to blue, do 4 in blue, then change colors to white. And at this point, I actually will continue crocheting over top of the blue yarn, because at the beginning of the next row, we're actually going to change colors there, since we're going to alternate to a different colored square for rows 4 through 6. So finish up those 4 half double crochets with white, and on your 4th stitch, before you finish it off, we are going to change colors to blue here actually. And if you take a look at my example, you can see based on where we're at, we're going to want to switch and do the opposite colors for the next row. So finishing off that stitch with blue now. We're going to chain 1 after that. Flip our work. And for round 4, we're actually going to do 4 half double crochets with blue first, then 4 with white, then 4 with blue, then 4 with white. In other words, it should not match with the previous round. It should be the opposite color, actually. So then on our 4th stitch, we'll change to white and do 4 half double crochets with white. After that, we'll change colors to blue, do 4 half double crochets with blue. And lastly, for row 4, we'll change to white and do 4 half double crochets with white. Next, we'll chain 1, and we have something looking like this. So you might have a good idea of where we're going with this, what the next few rounds will look like. I want you to keep in mind that for every checkered square, remember it's 4 stitches wide and only 3 rows tall. I know you might think you should do 4 and 4, but because half double crochet stitches are a little bit taller than something like single crochet, we only need to do 3 rounds to make those look like squares. And so if you keep that in mind, you will honestly know what to do for the rest of the project. But if that is still a little bit confusing, I went ahead and wrote the exact pattern for rows 5 and 6 right here. For row 5, we'll do 4 half double crochet in white, then 4 in blue, then 4 in white, 4 in blue. Then you'll chain 1 in between those rows. For round 6 though, we'll start with blue instead. So it'll be 4 half double crochet in blue, then 4 in white, 4 in blue, 4 in white. Once you get to the very last stitch in row 6, we have completed our next row of squares, so we're going to change colors to blue here. And chain 1 to move on to the next row. But at this point, we are halfway done with our coasters. So I wrote the exact pattern for rows 7 through 12 up above. Basically, row 7 will be one of those opposite rows where you don't want the colors to match with the colors that you used on the previous row. Doing blue, white, blue, white. And feel free to reference this for the exact pattern for the rest of the rows. I don't think it would be totally useful to show you every single stitch, but basically the second half of the coaster is exactly the same as the first half. So go ahead and finish off the coaster and meet me back at the end of row 12. And once you're done, you should have something looking like this. So now we just have to do the trim. So we can actually cut off the color that we are not using for the trim. So since I'm going to do blue trim, I can go ahead and cut off the white. And we can knot off the white just by looping our tail through this loop and pulling it tight. So at this point, you can actually weave in those little yarn tails if you'd like, or if you want to just crochet over top of them when we're doing the trim, that works too. That's my lazy girl hack to avoid having to weave in my ends. So we're gonna grab our hook, and starting near the blue yarn, we are going to push our hook through kind of the corner and then pull the blue yarn through to the front. After that, we will chain 1. and stick our hook through the first stitch in the top of this row here. And for the trim, we're going to just be doing single crochets this time. And so if you've never done a single crochet, you are not going to wrap the yarn around your hook before you stick it through. You're actually just going to stick your hook through, pull a yarn through, and then you should have 2 loops on your hook. Then we will yarn over and pull a loop through those 2 loops. And that's a single crochet. And so we're not going to be changing colors at all for this trim. Luckily, this should be much easier than the rest of the coaster. We're just going to go straight across, and for each side of the square, so the top, bottom, left, right, is each going to be 16 single crochet. So just work your way across the top. And once you get to the corner here, it looks something like this, which I think looks super nice. And on the side, the stitches are not going to be as well defined for you. So my rule of thumb, if we want to do 16 stitches in total, that means we're going to need to do 4 single crochet per color along the side. So I just kind of guesstimate exactly where I need to put my hook in order to fit 4 stitches in here. And so it'll probably look something like this. Try to keep them kind of evenly spaced, but there's not an exactly right way to do this part. Once we get to the white, we're going to want to fit 4 single crochet in the white part, and continue along the side, trying to fit 4 in the blue part and then 4 in the white part, and by the end of that side you should have hopefully 16 single crochet along that side. So once you get to the corner, the bottom of the coaster I think is a little bit easier than the sides. It does have pretty well defined stitches. If you crochet a little bit tight like me, it might be a little bit hard to push the hook through, but at least it's pretty straightforward where you're going to crochet. Just do 1 single crochet per stitch. And then once you get to the corner, we can turn our work, and this side will be the same as the other one. We just want to make sure to fit 16 single crochets along this entire side. So in other words, 4 single crochet per color. And once you get to the end, my last single crochet ends up being in the same place that I started usually. You just want to make sure there's not a huge gap. And to finish it off, we are going to look to the first single crochet that we did for the trim at the very, very beginning of the round. Put our hook through there and do a slip knot. You'll just yarn over and pull the yarn all the way through, just like this. And that's a slip stitch. So now you can go ahead and trim a little bit of a tail, just enough so that you can sew in the end. Then we'll knot it off like this. Go ahead and grab your sewing needle and weave that little yarn tail through the needle. Then I like to hide the end on the back side of my coaster just to keep the front looking pretty. And since we already knotted this off, it's technically secure, so you just never want to cut too close to your knot. So that's why I will use the sewing needle to sew that yarn in just under like a few stitches. You don't have to be scientific with it. but once you've hidden that yarn, you can take your needle off and just trim that yarn right off. And there you have your completed crochet checkered coaster. I love how you can whip up little projects like this so quickly, and I think it's such a subtle but aesthetic touch to add to your home. Love the versatility too. You can do any combination of colors. I just think they're awesome. Plus, they make great gifts for people, and it's something that you can make in like an hour. I've made these for friends, family. I even made these for my coworkers, and they all kept them on their little desks. It was so cute. So I hope you liked this tutorial, and if you made one, please share it with me. You can do that by either going to the community page on my channel, and you can post a picture of your work, or if you'd rather, tag me on Instagram or TikTok. Other than that, make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I will see you all very soon with a fun vlog or my next crochet tutorial. Bye guys!